remembrance. It is a lasting tribute to the OAC students who gave their lives during the Great War. During the interwar years, Memorial Hall fulfilled a dual purpose, retaining its role as a tribute to the fallen and serving as a vibrant hub of OAC intellectual and cultural life. Armistice Day ceremonies continued each November 11th, ensuring that remembrance remained at the heart of the building's identity. At the same time, the hall became a major cultural venue, hosting concerts, theater performances, public speaking contests, charity events, and student social gatherings. It emerged as an academic hub, holding lectures, debate clubs, Union Literary Society meetings, parliamentary club sessions, and weekly orchestral recitals. By 1926, the hall was fully woven into the daily lives of OAC students. It was the site of morning assemblies for the entire student body. The first ever convocation ceremony in the history of the OAC was held at Memorial Hall on May 28th of 1926, and that's a tradition that still continues today. In 1931, the installation of modern film projection equipment transformed the hall into a space for educational film screenings and increasingly popular movie nights. The hall drew prominent national figures as well, including Sir Robert Falconer, F.G. Scott, and Governor-General Viscount Willingdon, who used it to address issues such as Canadian identity, of democratic development, and of national sovereignty. It also became a platform for social progress, hosting early feminist debates in 1925, interfaith discussions like Rabbi Eiserman's 1928 lecture series, Canadian art exhibitions, and international cultural exchanges such as the Ukrainian choir became staple events at Memorial Hall. However, recalling the very poorly aged remark made in 1924, the hall was, in fact, ready for the next war. When Canada entered the Second World War in 1939, more than 1,200 OAC students and graduates enlisted. 73 of them, alongside 2 faculty members, gave their lives in service. During the early years of the war, Memorial Hall became a hive of wartime fundraising, hosting concerts and theatrical productions, author evenings, and lectures that raised both money and morale. Events like the Inter-University Drama Festival and the Canadian Author Evening routinely filled the hall, giving students and the community a way to support the war effort together. In the spring of 1941, the war moved even closer to the OAC, when it was announced that the No. 4 Wireless School would be established on campus in June of that year as part of the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan, or the BCAP. This development brought the war directly into the heart of the Guelph community, as the campus became partially integrated with the Royal Canadian Air Force. Despite opposition from some agricultural organizations, some members of the city of Guelph, and prominent political figures, the decision was made to house part of the RCAF school on campus, resulting in the cancellation of several academic programs and courses, the cancellation of the OAC diploma course, the indefinite suspension of the women's programs of the MacDonald Institute, and the eviction of students from residence. Just days before the military established themselves at War Memorial Hall, the final class of the MacDonald Institute to graduate there held an early and hastily arranged commencement ceremony. It was the first week of June 1942. Because the war effort forced the date forward, the traditional daisy chain could not be made from daisies, prompting students instead to create an improvised garland of bridal wreath, honeysuckle, and purple iris in order to preserve the tradition. Despite these disruptions, the juniors still carried the substitute garland to form the ceremonial pathway for the seniors, ensuring that the essence of the long-standing graduation ritual remained intact. Within a week of the ceremony, Memorial Hall was once again one of the first buildings commandeered. Its main auditorium was converted into a military teaching hall for aircrew assemblies, lectures, and graduation ceremonies. At the same time, its basement was transformed into an entertainment center for the trainees. It was operated by the Legion and the YWCA, offering much-needed recreation and relief to the trainees on the OAC campus. Through 1942 and 1943, Memorial Hall served as the social and cultural heart of the wireless school, hosting concerts and lectures and the squadron's first formal banquet and dance. For OAC, the presence of the wireless school marked a fundamental shift, transforming the institution into a site of military preparation amidst the demands of wartime. The bustling student life that had characterized the campus in the previous years was now punctuated by the sounds of military drills and training exercises. By the fall semester of 1941, military training became a routine part of life at the OAC, with students required to train 3 to 4 days a week. By the time military operations ended in 1945, roughly 5,000 airmen had trained at OAC, passing through Memorial Hall on their way to active service overseas. The OAC regained full control of the campus on February 22nd of 1945. The final class of the No. 4 Wireless School had already graduated from Memorial Hall early January, and by the month's end, the building was again available for the college use. This lifted the spirits on campus at a time when some were worried that the wartime militarization had weakened campus culture. A series of social and theatrical events were organized at the hall to reignite the sense of community at the OAC. Following the war's conclusion in 1945, ceremonials were again held at Memorial Hall, and talks to honor the fallen OAC alumni of the Second World War began, which included the construction of an addition to the existing hall, a possible chapel on Johnston Green, a memorial garden, Memorial Hall became the symbolic heart of the new institution. On May 8th of 1964, the Ontario Legislature amalgamated the Ontario Agricultural College, the Macdonald Institute, and the Ontario Veterinary College into a single entity, the University of Guelph. Since then, Memorial Hall has continued to host convocations, diploma ceremonies, major academic gatherings and milestones, and important university events throughout a period of rapid expansion. Throughout the 20th century, the Hall revived its role as a major cultural and social hub, also hosting concerts, plays, films, and social events, orientation activities, visiting scholars, political speakers, and student performances, making it one of the most active multipurpose venues on campus. At the same time, Memorial Hall sustained its foundational commemorative role. It remained the anchor of annual Remembrance Day ceremonies, and it continues to preserve the memory of the OAC students who fell in the First and Second World Wars. Today, it remains the center of campus Remembrance Day observances. Some photos of various events at the Hall over the years. There were some renovations done to it in the 1980s and the 1960s. Photograph on the left is the Guelph Experimental Theatre Players. There's a photo of the graduation ceremony in 1963. Photo of Guelph's Mayor Ralph W. Smith on the steps of Memorial Hall, and that was in 1963 as well. A few other events. There is the graduation procession. That one was 1967. Graduating class of St. Joseph's Hospital School outside Memorial Hall in 1967 as well. The graduating class in 1968. This is one that people usually get excited for. So Rush played there in 1978. Fantastic. Children's singer Raffi also performed there. As we can tell, this continues to be a center of University of Guelph campus culture, including its ongoing ties to the Canadian Armed Forces. Every year, a graduation or a Remembrance Day ceremony is held there, and this is a photo from one of the most recent ones in 2021. There's some familiar faces on the picture on the right. As the university enters 2026, Memorial Hall continues to stand as a uniquely enduring institution, a memorial sanctuary, a lecture hall, a cultural stage, and a ceremonial landmark. For 80 years, it has embodied continuity in service, scholarship, remembrance, and community life at the University of Guelph. Described in one word, legacy. And I know that sounds like the conclusion, but surprise, I have another very long quote for you. I'm going to read from you, to you, how an OAC student described what the hall should represent in 1928. Quote, Memorial Hall should serve two purposes. It should not only recall the past, but it should also be an inspiration for the present and for the future. The best sort of memorials is like the old Italian divinity, Janus. It looks two ways. Janus was the god of beginnings, but he had two faces. One to look back into the past, as well as one to look forward into the future. To be two-faced in this sense is the beginning not of hypocrisy, but of wisdom. No solid future can be built up, save on the foundation of the past. Nothing of the past that was worthy is without its value in the present and in the future. Every second of our lives is a veritable Janus. It is a beginning and it is an ending. The present moment is but the meeting place of the past and future. Janus was a symbol, and there is something symbolic in Memorial Hall. It is a visible embodiment of that meeting of the past and future, which makes up what we call life. Our Memorial Hall is a symbol, but it is more than a symbol. It is an inspiration. The Memorial Chapel typifies this most concretely. And the bronze tablet there holds up for our veneration the names of those former students whose memory liveth forevermore. But the whole building serves to credit them. It serves to recall unselfish sacrifice for a noble cause. Various activities now center in the building. Into them surely must find its way some touch of inspiration from the past. Those who are participating in these activities are soon to go forth from this college to take their part in upholding, wheresoever they might be, the aims and ideals of their alma mater. Not without a lingering glance on the past will they turn to the future. And so our hall, enriched with a benediction from bygone days, look forward into the future, in which all that is best in the spirit of the past may still live on. As a graduate of the University of Guelph, I can proudly say that spirit and their memory lives on. It is carried by myself and the thousands of students who have stood upon the steps of Memorial Hall. Thank you.
Oh, we
I was exactly on time.
Yeah, bang on time.
Nice. That's
Take
first.
questions.
Yes, please. Can I answer any questions?
I have one.
Yes, please.
Is there any commemoration to its 100th anniversary being planned?
For the 100th anniversary, so back in 2024,
Correct.
It was now,
Yeah.
there was a fantastic ceremony that was held at the hall, and I think one of the most touching ceremonies I had ever seen, one of the things that, it was one of these fine gentlemen's ideas, was the 109 students, their names were put on a chair. And as the names were called out during the ceremony, the person who was sitting in that chair with the names on it would stand up. And you had this visual of just the scale of it. And to look around at fellow University of Guelph students and see that this is the exact sort of people that were called forward to the front and who fell. It was a profound and tremendous emotional response, I think, from the crowd. So yes, there was a 100th anniversary ceremony, and it was extremely well executed.
Oh, where's the chapel?
So the chapel is here. I didn't pocket this, did I? No, I didn't. So if you see the War and Peace windows here, it's just behind these walls between the two solid wooden doors. There's actually a photograph down here. So it's a small little space. It has the tablets on the walls. These are the excuse me, War and Peace windows here. But geographically, in terms of where it is in the building, it's just right here.
Can we walk in and visit the place? I mean, it sounds like it's exclusively for the university now.
I'm actually not sure. Would you know, Dr. Walsh?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're welcome to visit the hall during the day. The university is publicly accessible at any time. And if you'd like to visit and have a tour, I'll leave you my card, and we can make sure that we find a time to go through, and we can open up the chapel
Yeah.
And
Okay,
we
no,
said-
I used to, I mean, I graduated in that, and I've been to many concerts at the school spring festival, but they don't do concerts there anymore, so thank you.
Yeah,
Take it.
I'll leave my card, and I'm happy to show you around.
It's a
Along
shame
with
that-
Mr. Foster, who's the expert.
It's a shame they don't do concerts there much anymore because it is a beautiful location.
Yeah, I mean, it was the grandest place to have a concert because, you know, just all the wood paneling around there and the presidents all on the walls, you know. It just looked like a grand,
It's the only
Yeah.
building on campus that feels like Hogwarts.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Was there any opposition to the building of it, or like, are there any pacifists or people opposed to war that?
So there was opposition, but not so much from pacifists that are recorded. It was more so the scale and the form of the hall. There was a lot of debate on what form it should take. The expense was astronomical. Even with that $40,000 grant from the government, it was still, you know, it was still estimated to cost $100,000 when those first revised plans came out. So a lot of the opposition was more so about the form that the memorial would take, and less so about making a memorial itself. The history of post-war memorialism in Canada is really interesting because there really was no standard way to do it, and communities took all sorts of different approaches. So some would make memorial gardens, some would do pillars at the entrance to fairgrounds, statues, that sort of thing. There was actually a business in the UK that arose specifically to create these memorials for communities. A good example of that is Georgetown. If anyone's ever been to the Georgetown cenotaph, there is a cast of Britannia with, you know, the lion, right? I think she has victory with her and all this. But that wasn't made specifically for the Georgetown cenotaph. It was a precast that was done in Birmingham and purchased by the community of Georgetown. Sir Arthur Currie actually unveiled that monument as well. So yeah, to answer your question, there was opposition, but not so much about there being a memorial, but about what it should look like.
I feel like it would be lots of names, so I understand why it would be in here, but did you ever come across lists of the people who helped build it from, like, my understanding is my grandmother's grandfather was an engineer that worked on it, but I haven't really been able to easily confirm that, but I think it's probably true, because it's a weird thing to tell people. But yeah, like, I'm sure there's lots of people that would be on a build of this scale, and like the student involvement as part of it is super cool, but I was just curious if there's anywhere where like those folks are documented for me to like ever confirm if it's real or not, I don't know.
So to my knowledge, there's no consolidated list of everyone that worked on the project. But a lot of the documents related to its construction are in the University of Guelph archives, and you can find a ton of different names in there.
Okay.
So I wouldn't doubt if you did stumble across the name of, did you say your grandfather?
It's my grandmother's grandfather.
Okay.
So he was William Butterton Ford. He was like a pretty big deal, I think. Like he built some, I think he even worked on buildings in Toronto and Burlington. Burlington was kind of the main area, but my understanding is he was on this building too, and that was like a notable thing. But.
Yeah, there were a lot of people involved, and there are names in there. Just to my knowledge, there's no consolidated list.
Yeah,
But if you can get in there, there's a lot of material to look through, and it's all interesting. Like they've got a lot of letters between people who were coordinating the construction. There were students who were talking about that felling of the pines incident. There was oral tradition on campus for a while that during that incident of the felling of the Norway spruce, they dug the foundation in a single night, right? But there's actually letters in those archives talking about how they just made that up, which is hilarious to me. Point being is that there's a ton to go through in there, and even if you don't find his name, it's still worth going through. Yes, please.
Yes, I have a question. Maybe it was covered at the beginning. I missed the initial part of the presentation, but were there any additional proposals that differed in design and style of architecture that were considered before going for the ultimate design, which was changed from what I understand, like throughout the process of building the memorial?
Absolutely, there were. So from the beginning, it seemed like it was going to take the style of Gothic revival, or academic Gothic, or collegiate Gothic. But you are right in that there was a different design originally for much grander. It had the spire with the planned bell tower. It was a very large undertaking. So there's the 800-person auditorium that was originally planned. It was going to be this grand building with statues and a and like a public square in front of it. It was reduced because of the expense that was associated with it, which was estimated to be over $100,000. It was $100,000 when it came out, and it just kept going up. So that's why it kind of reduced in scale over time.
Okay, and if I could like do a continuation
Yep.
question, was this the task of designing the memorial hall was given to a single, let's say, architect, or was it posted as something that maybe other architectural firms could compete or present their own designs?
So it actually went out as a public bid. They started accepting designs on. It was the summer right after it was announced. I think it was 1921 or 1919. Sorry, kind of got that mixed up there. But the point is that it went out to the public for designs, and a lot of them were submitted. And as I was saying, in those archives, there's actually a few of those that are left down there. The design that they went with was Dangerfield and Coles, which was this one before they had to reduce it. But there were a lot of different proposals for different forms that the hall could take.
Thank you.
No worries.
Could you speak to the back and forth between the faculty and the students? Because the students, I understand, they were the ones that were really behind this and proposed it. And, or maybe it's administration. But can you talk a little bit more about that history?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Yeah.
as you said, the students were really the driving force behind this project. It was very personal to a lot of people, and it's actually talked about in a form of survivor's guilt in the OAC review in some cases, where they felt like they had to do it in some cases, right? And on the other end of that, there were people who, they lost their friends, they lost their family. And so it was a very personal thing to the students. It transformed the culture on campus. Meanwhile, administration, most of their holdup, I think, was A, the cost of doing it, and B, there were a lot of other competing infrastructure projects at the time. And essentially every site that the students put forward was a desirable location for the rest of those buildings that were planned. To the administration, they weren't opposed to having a memorial hall, but to them it seemed more like a logistical headache than anything. And so a lot of the back and forth seemed to be, the students go up to administration, we want this site. And administration was back down with, well, that's not going to work because this is where the apiary building's going to go. So then they go back, and that's not going to work because that's where this building's going to go. So there were a few times where the administration recommended sites. One of them was too small for the proposed hall, and the other one was at a isolated. Led activity.
I find it really interesting because if you look at it, there's the McDonald Institute on one side, you've got OAC on the other side, and then you've got OBC, and Warren Man is right in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like the epicenter of student life, really.
It is.
Or it would have been at that time, for sure.
You could also say that it's the physical heart of campus. Yeah, it really does make sense when the colleges were combined. It is at the center. Like, it was almost, it wasn't intended to be that way, but it was made that way. It's sorry?
Really amazing, like amazing that the students got their way
Yes.
and that it got that spot in particular.
And it was the persistent pushing too. It was